using caller product to be X, then at equilibrium, the total of the two probabilities should all be equal to 1. So it therefore means that now the probability of the another customer using the other product will now be 1 minus X. So that now when you add these two, you should be able to get 1. So that is the first case. So the probability that the customer will use the other product will be 1 minus X. Remember, we have been given the different probabilities. Now, before advertising, the conditions that we have, maybe in a matrix form, these are 0.85. So we are just copying them the way they are in the problem there. 0.85. Then we have 0.15. 0.15. Then we have 0.25. And then 0.75. So this we've got from the problem. Yes, okay, Mwanyambega. Are you okay? Okay, Mwa is typing, so maybe we can wait for him. Okay, as he's typing, we can move on. So these are the states. Okemwa is lost. He doesn't know what we are doing. Now, Okemwa, we are looking at an example 1, which is there in our notes. I shared it before this. Before this slide here that we are having. So if you can, maybe I can request that you download the notes from the portal, and then you look at example 1 that is there, the Markov analysis, the class for today. Okay, thank you. Now that you have downloaded, so can you look at example 1? In example 1, which was talking about the Tamu soft drink, which is facing a stiff competition from its competitors. So we have been given the conditions before advertising and maybe the possible conditions after advertising. What we want to do here is to advise this company whether it will be prudent for them to continue with the advertising and rebranding, or they should move with the status quo. So that is what we want to do. And then you see, we can't divide them, we can't advise them without the numbers. So we must get the numbers so that now when we are advising them, we tell them for these two different scenarios, before advertising, this was the state and this is the result. After advertising, this is the state now and this is the result. And then now we can now tell them whether to continue advertising or whether not to continue advertising. So first of all, we want to now get the equilibrium state proportion before advertising. Then we will also get the equilibrium state proportion after advertising. So before advertising, this was the state. Now we are going to multiply this by x, and then 1 minus x. So when we multiply this, so this is a 1 by 2 matrix. This other one is a 2 by 2. And remember, in matrices, when we are multiplying, then we must ensure that this value here and this value here should be the same. The number of columns in the first matrix must be the same as the number of rows in the second matrix, and the product of the matrices, the product of these two matrices will now be of order 1 by 2. So we are just doing a recap of what we did. So it will be of order this one here and this. So somebody can ask you that. Okay. So at equilibrium, when we multiply these two matrices, we should be able to get a matrix of order 1 by 2, meaning 1 row and 2 columns. So that should give us the same value x, and then 1 minus x. We should be able to get that value. I hope we are together up to that point. So if we expand on this, then it means that we will multiply the first row by the first column, and that should be equals to what we have here as x. So we don't even need to again go to the second column, because what we want to get here is to expand this, we'll multiply x by 0.85 first. So that will be 0.85 x, and then plus. So again, we are multiplying 1 minus x, 1 minus x times 0.25 and all these should be equals to x. So if we multiply the first row by the first column, we should get this value here, which is x. That is why we are equating it with x. So because our area of interest here is to find the value of x, we don't have again to go to the other second column there, because we'll get the same answer. So if we expand this, then we'll have 0.85, sorry, 0.85 x plus, then we open this bracket, 1 times 0.25, and that will be 0.25 0.25. Then we move on, 0.25 times negative x. So that is negative 0.25x, negative 0.25x, and this we equate to x. The next step will now be to collect the like terms. So the x's, all of them, we take them to the other side. So on this side, we'll have 0.25. Then we equate this to x. Then this is positive 0.85x. If it crosses the is equal sign, it becomes a negative. This is negative 0.25. If it crosses the is equal sign, it will now become positive 0.25. Positive 0.25x. Remember, we are collecting the like terms, so minus 0.85x. So can we work out this other side? We add x to 0.25x, and then we subtract 0.85x. So Julius, what will that give us? Julius. So on this side we have 0.25 being equals to Eric Ngugi. Okay. Stephen Nyagaya, that's okay. Brenda Mushiri, that is 0.4x. Okay. Then now, to get the value of x, we'll now divide both sides by 0.4. So we'll have 0.25 . What will be the value of x if we divide? Okay, Stephen Nyagaya, Wangui, Wanjira, 0.625. So that is x. So if x is 0.3625, sorry, therefore now 1 minus x will now be, we subtract 0.625 from 1, and that will be 0. Yes, Nyagaya, 0.375. Yes, and okay, Sharon Igariura, Muleo, Ahmed Kul, Kandie Jamuge, Mutoro, that is okay, 0.375. So we can now state that the equilibrium, state proportion, equilibrium state proportion before advertising, equilibrium state proportion before advertising is 0.625, 0.625, and 0.375. So that is the equilibrium state proportion before advertising. Equilibrium state proportion before advertising. Any question? Any question? Any question? Okay. Then number two, we need to also look at the equilibrium state proportion after advertising. So again, we will use these same proportions, but now the conditions here will change. We'll use the conditions that we have been given in example 1. So the conditions in example 1 after advertising. So the conditions that we have been given there are 0.9. We have 0.9, and then we have 0.1 there. Then 0.3, and lastly 0.7. So if we use the same condition, so we are multiplying this by x, and then 1 minus x, and this should also give us the same because we are looking at equilibrium, x 1 minus x. Okay. So again, we are only going to multiply row 1 by column 1 because we are just interested in the value of x. So if we do that, we'll have x times 0.9, which is 0.9x, one minus x times 0.3, sorry, then this should be equals to x. Okay, then we expand this, so we have 0.9x, sorry about my pen, 0.9x plus, then we expand this, 0.3, so this is after advertising, then minus 0.3x, so we equate this to x, And again, we collect the like terms, the 0.9x, the 0.3x. So on this other side, we'll have a 0.3. This we are equating to x plus now the negative 0.3. If it crosses the equal sign, it becomes now a positive 0.3x. Then positive 0.9x. If it crosses the equal sign, it becomes a negative 0.9x. Sorry, that is point, not 1. Okay, so we can collect the like terms. So on this side, we'll have 0.3. What about on the other side? Yes, Shamake. What will we have? This is 1.3 minus 0.9. That will still be 0.4. 0.4 x. Okay, Madrine, Malala, that's okay, Juliana, Brenda, and Irene. So what will be the value of x? We divide both sides by 0.4. So 0.4 x divide by again 0.4 x. So we have Juliana, we have Medrin, we have Shamake, Simon Gunyali, Jefferson, Muleo, Steven, Kandie, Sharon, Mutoro. So all that is coming, the value of x now will be 0.75. So x will be 0.75. So what about the 1 minus x? 1 minus x now will be 0.25. Yes, Jefferson, that is okay. 0.25. So again, Akandie, that is okay. Mutoro, Muleo, Medrin, and Wangui, that is okay. So we can state that the equilibrium state proportion after advertising, the equilibrium state proportion after 0.75 and 0.25. So I think we have answered part 1 of the question, because if you look at our question in part 1, we were asked to get the equilibrium state condition or proportion before advertising and after advertising. So that is part A of the question. We are not done yet. So Irene is asking where 0.25 is coming from. Remember, we had let the first condition to be x, and if at equilibrium, the total states should add up to 1. It therefore means that if the first state is x, then the other state will be 1 minus x. So we have found x to be 0.75. Therefore, 1 minus x will be 1 minus 0.75. So if you subtract 0.75 from 1, that is where we are getting the 0.25. So Irene, are you now okay where we've got the 0.25 from? Yes? Okay. Thank you. I think we can continue. If there is no any other question, we can continue with the part B of this question. And if you look at part B of the question, in part B, we were told that we were told to get the expected annual profit increase or decrease after advertising campaign, and then we are asked to whether to recommend advertising or not to recommend advertising. So what we should do is to get the profit before advertising and then the profit after advertising. So from the two, we can now be in a position to deduce whether there has been an increase in profit or there has been a decrease in profit. And therefore, after that, we can be able also to give an advice to the company or a suggestion. Again, remember the suggestions, we are not giving them based on our intuition, but we are supposed to give the suggestions based on the numbers. So in our case here, we are looking at the profitability. So if maybe the profitability after advertising would have increased, then now we can advise the company to now continue advertising the product. But if the profitability has decreased, then we would advise them now to not to advertise because they are spending money and there is no positive outcome from the amount that are invested. So I want us to get the profit before advertising, profit before advertising, then again profit after, then we compare the two. So to get the profit before advertising, we are going to move back to the value of X that we found out before advertising. And the okay, remember in our problem, the total number of customers are 40 million. So we are going to multiply the 0.625, the probability, by 40 million customers. So we have 40 million customers. And then we have been told that the profit margin for each customer is 5 shillings. The profit margin for each customer is 5 shillings. So to get the total profit for the 40 million customers before advertising, we take the probability of that state, and the state is now before advertising, times the total number of customers, which is 40 million, times 5, which is the profit margin per customer. So maybe some of us can get that. Okay, Steven Nyagaya, 125 million. Charmake, the same. So the profit, the profit before advertising will be 125 million. We've got Medrin, Malala, Wangui, Wanjira, Irene Akinyi, Juliana, Simon Gunyali, Kandie, Jemuge, all of us are getting 125 million. So that is the profit before advertising. So we can also get the profit. The next stage is to, yes, Mutoro Kisa, Brenda Mushiri, that is okay, 125 million. Next we get the profit after advertising, and then now we will compare the two values to know whether there was an increase or a decrease. So again, we take the probability of that condition, so the value of X, which was 0.75. The profit margin is the same, the number of customers are the same. So again, still we have 40 million customers. The probability, the profitability margin is still 5 shillings. So we multiply this by 5. So what is the product? The product there. Okay, Nyagaya, 150 million. $150 million. Irene, Medrin, the same 150. Brenda, Juliana, Kandie, Jefferson, Mutoro. So that is 150 million. So my question is, has the profit increased or decreased after advertising? Has the profit increased or decreased? Because we were asked that. We were asked whether the profit has decreased or increased. It has increased, isn't it? After advertising, okay? So we now note that there was so the increase there. Okay, it is an increase. Yes, William. There was an annual increase of, now we get the difference between 150 and 125 million. So that is a difference of 25 million. A difference of, sorry, of 25 million shillings. So what is the advice that we can give to the company? What is the advice that we can give to the company? The term soft drink. Yes. What is the advice that we can give them? They continue advertising. So that is good, Jefferson. So we advise them to, our advice is they advertise. And you've seen we are giving our advice based on the numbers that we've got. We are giving our advice based on the numbers because we have seen that if the company just continue with the status quo without advertising, then the profit that they are getting is 125. But if they rebrand and advertises, the profit will increase to 150 million. So the probability of maybe that in the next period again, if they continue with advertising, this amount increasing to above 150 million is almost close to 1. So we should advise them to advertise. So any question up to that point? Any question? Any area that maybe you need me to clarify that is not clear to you, so that we clarify? Yes, Brenda, you can unmute your microphone. Okay, thank you. There is no question. Are the other members? Okay, now if, okay, Jefferson. Okay, thank you, Jefferson. There is no question. So I hope we were clear. I'm waiting for the others who are still typing. Yes, Muleo. Okay, thank you. So I think we can we can end our live session for today, and then we can look at example 2, because I want to look at least 3 examples so that we get to understand the Markov analysis better before moving to the other aspect. So I want us to move to the discussion forum, and then we look at example 2. I'll also post it there in the forum. Please, I'm online for any clarification. If you don't know what to do, you are free to ask. My number is also there. The WhatsApp is also active.